and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there on your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, hey, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
I agree, Jess. Let's get going. What do you say? Hey, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. Today's topic is From Edge to Cloud, how backup solutions are evolving. Hard to get a more timely topic these days because the evolution is really in full force right now, and so many changes and so much that you need to know to keep all of your data safe out there. I'm going to start by saying a big thank you for joining us on the EcoCast today. We have got two of the heaviest hitters in the industry, Rubrik and Akamai. As for me, I am Keith Ward. I am your happy host, and I'm delighted to be here and be your moderator for this incredible EcoCast today. I want to give a shout out to Ali and Jorge Martins from California, Adam from San Diego, California, Lionel from Seattle, Paul and Morteza from California. California is representing today. Reggie from Birmingham and Rodney from Pennsylvania is also here. Ed from St. Louis, Minnesota, Texas. Eric is saying good morning from North Carolina. Jim from Jackson, Mississippi, and Irmo, South Carolina. Good morning, Gilbert. So got a bunch of you here today from all over the country, all over the world, actually, and I'm so glad to be here with you. Now, the other members of our spectacular mod squad that you can see right there are Mackenzie Pudici, Scott Becker, and the luminous Jess Steinbach. I actually think luminous should be part of her name because that is what she is. I think you would all agree with that. And if that is not enough that you've got me with you in these great companies, we have also got some cold hard cash, well, in the form of gift cards anyway, to give away. Today's haul is three $300 Amazon gift cards that we are going to be distributing throughout the event, so sit tight for those. And what do you say now? We get to the meat of the event here, starting with this great bit of content, our keynote discussion from the incredible Melissa Palmer. Melissa, for those of you who don't know, is a technology analyst, VMware certified design expert, and a serious industry veteran who's been around the block many times and knows this stuff cold. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say. And let's get to that right now. Melissa, it is always great to see you. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Actual Tech Media team. Today we have a great topic for you, and it's something that impacts every organization and is often overlooked. We're going to talk about from edge to cloud, how backup solutions are evolving. Now, the way we protect our data has fundamentally changed over even just the last decade because our data has changed. It's grown. Our data sets are larger. There's more of it. All these things are generating more data. We just have such a vast volume of data. And the rise of virtualization is really what kind of started transforming the backup space. And then we had the adoption of cloud, which has driven it even further. Now we have data to protect in even more places. When we start talking about edge use cases, there's just about data everywhere. There's a ton of it, and it's our job to protect it. This means that we need to also fundamentally shift what we think about when we talk about data protection. Now, I remember when I started my career, it was all about the servers, both physical and virtual. Everything was done on the server level. And we weren't really even thinking of necessarily like the data, other than making sure the data drive of the server is backed up, or even the application. It was more like, let's talk about this server and protecting this server. Everything was about the server. If the server didn't back up, I got notified that the server didn't back up, right? And this worked for a while. until virtualization just really started catching on and there were so many servers anywhere. It just didn't scale when we could deploy servers so quickly and easily. And then when we started getting into the cloud, this model just started breaking on such a fundamental level. I think cloud might have been one of the things that really kind of have driven the data protection technologies out there. While many people went into the cloud initially with the idea of deploying servers, they started seeing all the features and benefits that the cloud had to offer. Like, let's take my favorite example. Let's say I'm a database administrator or I have a database heavy application. I mean, why would I bother with a database server if I can consume the database as a service? I don't have to manage the hardware. I don't have to manage the operating system. I don't have to manage anything. I just get the database component I need for my app without all of that application overhead. And it really simplifies my life from a deployment and management aspect of things, right? But this right here is a perfect example of what requires a fundamental shift in our data protection thinking, since we're no longer concerned with just a server. You might have heard discussions early on in some of the rise of virtualization in cloud about pets versus cattle, right? And that's probably one of my favorite examples. We have this server, we're treating it like a pet. It's very special. We're going to take very good care of this server. We're going to give it a name, like all that good stuff. When we need to start thinking about all of our resources like cattle. And that doesn't mean we don't care about them. It just means we're going to do things differently because we have so many. We need to put processes in place to deal with them so we can deal with the volume of things, right? So we have to take some fundamental shifts when we're managing a large amount of servers. Now, this concept is pretty fundamental to any modern data protection solution. We need to shift our understanding to protecting data and applications versus protecting servers, no matter where our data lives. And this ties back to the evolution of our data in recent years. Many organizations still have data centers and are using cloud services, which kind of puts them right in that hybrid cloud category. We have some organizations who have gone all in on cloud computing, or some organizations that were even born cloud native. That makes them a little more cloud native, and they might be doing things a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, all organizations have users. And in today's landscape, these users are distributed across geographic areas, which brings us kind of to the edge. And then things start to get even more complicated when users want to use their own devices from both a security and a data protection point of view. And that's a lot that we're responsible for protecting. So now let's shift gears into what we need to look for in a next generation data protection solution. Now, first and foremost, we need to understand what kind of environment we have. At the scale we all operate at today, it's impossible to have a point solution for protecting each type of data or data location. I can't have a backup system for my databases. It's different from my VMs. It's different from the clouds. It's different from physical servers, right? I need a single tool that is going to protect all of our data in the cloud, whether it's cloud native, whether it's edge data, full stop, right? I want to use as few tools as possible. And this is something that we should all think about going into this, right? Let's not make our jobs more complicated because we still have to manage and run and operate all these things. Now, this may also change how we're consuming our backup tool, right? Everybody is so used to kind of the traditional method of I have a backup server on-prem based on what system I'm using. I might have other servers that go with the backup server. And then I have this big thing of storage where I am storing all my backups, and that's where they live. Now, our tool might be deployed in the cloud or even in a cloud native fashion if that's where most of our data is these days. We will probably have also copies of our data in multiple clouds in case we need to recover to a different cloud. We might not even have an on-prem copy of our data anymore. Or if we do have an on-prem copy of our data, it might not be, our primary backup data. It might just be a copy of a copy, right? So we're going to change the way we fundamentally architect backup systems as we kind of grow forward and adopt these modern data protection solutions. And now we have to get into the buzzword section of our discussion here. And believe me, I would not be bringing this up if it wasn't relevant. We need to talk about security and AI. Now, traditionally, these things have not tied into data protection, but in today's climate, they most certainly do. We know ransomware attacks and security breaches are pretty much everywhere at this point. And the first step to protect ourselves is we need to know where all of our data is so we can protect it. AI can actually help us with this. It can help us locate our data. It can help us keep track of our data. And it can also find threats within our data. It might be able to find a ransomware before we even do, which is a wonderful thing because then we can kind of get ahead of things instead of having a disaster or ransomware recovery event. Building on this, we need to make sure all of our data is secure, no matter where it is, whether it's in our data center, in our cloud, in the edge, or on our user devices. But we need to take this a step further and even secure our data protection data, right? We need to secure our backups. We need to store them in a secure fashion, and we need multiple copies of them. Backup immutability is absolutely table stakes at this point. And if you haven't heard of the concept before, it simply means that if we have immutable backups, our backups cannot be destroyed or modified. This is so important because the threat actors out there literally have instructions on how to find out what backup tool you're using in your environment and go delete your data. Now, if it's stored in an immutable fashion, they simply can't do that, which means that when we do figure out things are going wrong, we know we can restore our data. We also need to make sure that we're testing this on a regular basis. It's really important to keep in mind that the most important aspect of backup isn't backup. Like I use the example of, oh no, I got notified that a server didn't back up tonight. I got to go look at it, right? And that was really early in my career. And I was thinking, oh, the server didn't back up. Let me go fix that. And that's kind of where my thought pattern stopped at that point. But the truth is, it's so important to know that if your data isn't backed up, you can't recover it. We really need to go a step further and talk about recovery. Because if something does happen to our data, we need to be able to recover it quickly. And we need to make sure that we're recovering it safely if we're talking about ransomware, right? We need to make sure that we're restoring clean copies of our data. So we're not just going to reinfect everything. This means we need to test our recovery and make sure we have multiple copies of our backup data in multiple places before disaster strikes. So take one thing away from today, let's make sure we have all that data protected so we can recover it later. So let's recap. We need to fundamentally shift how we think when it comes to our modern data protection. We've evolved so far from focusing on servers to focusing on our data, and we need to make sure we're using the right tools to accomplish this. This starts with understanding how our organization operates, what kind of cloud model we're using. Are we hybrid? Are we all in cloud native? Let's talk about the edge. Let's talk about our user devices. And then we need to pick the right tool, and we want to use as few tools as possible. Now, today we have some great technology partners to help us get in the right mindset and help us develop edge to cloud data protection strategies. I'm so excited to get started, so let's get going. Back to you, Actual Tech Media team.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Boy, always great stuff from her. So I've thrown up the poll question. What is your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? Please start voting in that now. Let us know. This feedback is extremely important to us. Thinking back on Melissa's keynote there, I think one of the greatest areas of weaknesses still for so many companies is proper testing of your backups. Remember that this is what the attackers very often now, especially the ransomware folks who are proliferating, the criminals, I should say, they are targeting backups first. They want to find out what backup software you're running, and they want to go after those because that is what you're going to rely on in the case of your backups. So checking your backups, making sure they're immutable, as Melissa said, and secure is the key. So with that said, keep on voting in the poll here. We got 4 options: 0 to 6 months, 6 months to a year, 1 to 2 years, and you're not sure. Let us know where you are in your IT upgrades right now, and keep on voting for another few seconds here. Okay. With that, let's move on to our first presentation in the EcoCast today. What do you say, huh? Let's get to the main event here. And this first session comes from Rubrik today. We are joined by Justin Ruiz, Senior Product Marketing Manager, who's ready to go. Justin, I'm going to turn this over to you right now, so please take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Ruiz. I'm a Director of Product Marketing here at Rubrik. So great to be here with all of you. And thanks for joining our webinar today on how to empower IT with immutable data vaults. Okay, so achieving business resilience requires cyber resilience, and that starts with securing your data. And so today we'll talk about the important role immutable data vaults play in a cyber resilience strategy, as well as the critical capabilities they require to empower IT to recover with speed and confidence. And so we'll specifically take a look at the current landscape, talking through the key challenges teams face related to traditional kind of immutable data vaults, before shifting gears and outlining the subsequent capabilities that are required to make them kind of viable, and finally explain how with Rubrik Secure Vault, you can secure data with immutability and air gap and access controls, as well as some of the other additional capabilities it enables to be effective at scale, including automation, speed and performance, and even the underlying architecture that is required to enable the other critical piece to this whole cyber resilience maze, cyber posture. And for those who might want to learn more, I'll mention some additional resources at the end that I think you'll find useful. So pretty packed agenda, as you can see. So let's dive in. All right, so starting from the top, what you see on the screen is a common production environment. You have production systems, backup storage, and copies and restores all over the place. And with cyber attacks on the rise, and with no end in sight, I might add, many have turned to traditional backup and recovery to try and protect their data. And it makes sense, as a place to start, a place to look. And after all, backup and recovery technologies have been a critical component for virtually all organizations. And they've been used for disaster recovery and business compliance for years and years. However, most organizations struggle to get these solutions to actually work. In fact, Rubrik Zero Labs reported that 99% of the organizations in their recent study had an existing backup solution. However, 93% of those same organizations encountered significant problems with their existing solution. Taking it even further, one of the biggest limitations that we hear that organizations face during a cyber attack is actually cited as an ineffective backup and recovery solution. And so this is a huge problem, but actually there's even a bigger problem at play here. And that is, unfortunately, most backup solutions are not up to the task of securing the data. And so a partner of ours called Aon, which is a leading global professional services firm, they reported that 70% of organizations do not store backups offsite, or their backups are not immutable. And that's a huge problem, as cyber criminals are really no amateurs. They know the game, and they actually regularly target backup platforms. In fact, Rubrik Zero Labs found attackers have gone after backups in a whopping 96% of attacks. And worse, they were at least partially successful in 74% of those attempts. And so, simply put, legacy backup solutions that may have once protected data actually struggle to keep up with the modern threats. And even when taking traditional backup and trying to evolve it into a data vault, because they are two different things, it is often not viable, as it requires twice the hardware to get an immutable and scanned copy. Not what you want when you're already left wrangling a complex system. Securing your data is critical, full stop, but it only gets you part of the way there. And one of the reasons for that is that today's admins are now having to manage hundreds or even thousands of instances, jobs, backups, and all of the other ancillary systems that make common tasks and administration possible. Businesses now need to respond faster and analyze more data to remain competitive. And this results in applications needing more specialized environments to support every use case. And so as a result, a typical company today has everything from physical systems, operating systems, virtual machines, databases, file systems, containers, and so on. And each of these systems can often have their own tools for backup and recovery, along with the different business SLAs. And so dealing with all of this complexity is expensive. It creates silos. really increases the risk that critical data will be left unprotected. And actually, Rubrik Zero Labs found that 40% of organizations have not set compliance policies for their data backups. On top of that, there tends to be no global visibility, making reporting and administration tasks manual and making visibility super difficult. This is a growing problem as demands on a modern, business necessitate an increased focus on the cloud and SaaS. We see the nature of hybrid environments moving towards cloud and SaaS while deprioritizing on-premises architecture growth. And almost all, 98% of organizations surveyed believe they currently have significant data visibility challenges. And to make matters worse, data volumes are growing fast, and that's driven by transaction volumes as well as the business need for richer data. The growth in data collection can be attributed to activities like increasing use of analytics, cloud migration initiatives, and even the proliferation of IoT devices. For example, retailers now track more data about each consumer, I think, which we've all experienced. But at the same time, backup windows have remained the same or have shortened, and that's driven by the need for even higher availability. And so this means backing up more data and making it available for everything from testing and refreshes to operational recoveries, and unfortunately, with legacy systems, can often exceed the desired SLAs. And so 66% of IT and security leaders believe their organization's current data growth is outpacing their ability to secure this data and really manage risk. But we also find that most of the time organizations are unable to rapidly recover what they need when they need it. For example, recovering specific data in a larger backup. And so legacy tools are often limited to all or nothing recovery methods that take just a lot of time. In fact, it's not uncommon for admins, to not even have access to the backup and are reliant on other teams for access. And this adds operational risks, and it ends up being much slower than desired by the business. And all of these challenges are compounded as you add more types of systems to the environment. And as we've already touched on, and as you already know, not uncommon for an enterprise to have multiple systems running, everything from physical systems, operating systems, virtual machines, databases, file systems, and even containers across on-premises and the cloud. And so together, all of these challenges are having a huge impact on organizations. And we see it in the questions IT teams are asking us. That's going to be questions like, how do I keep all of my data secure and available to recover in the face of cyber threats? How do I maintain a backup and recovery SLA when data volumes are increasing and backup windows are shrinking? But similarly, how do I rapidly recover only the data I need and make it available to users when they need it? As well as, how do I centrally manage the numerous environments across the cloud as well as in the data center? And so this is why at Rubrik, we believe there are a whole new set of requirements that organizations must have in order to protect their data in this modern era. The first is really around Rubrik Secure Vault and this notion of a data vault. And so keeping data secure and available to cyber attacks. And so enterprises need a resilient kind of integrated platform that delivers air-gapped, mutable, access-controlled backups that can be easily replicated and archived to multiple locations. But like we talked about, having the data available really is only part of the solution. They also need some automated data protection. This is to ensure the data is always protected in a changing environment. Organizations need policy-based automation that can discover, secure, and manage retention of data in a variety of systems they have across the enterprise. And with all of these environments, really in multiple places, these enterprises need unified protection across cloud and on-premises. And that means organizations need a single console to manage data, irrespective of location, variety, or volume, with ease of use and self-service from a single access control platform. And with all that data, these enterprises need faster backup and restores at scale, because all of this data that is now being generated, organizations need smarter and higher performing backup technologies to deal with the larger volumes of data within shorter backup timeframes. And so instantaneous recovery of data at any scale is also a critical requirement. Okay, but what about recovery? After all, what good is backup if you can't recover it? So these enterprises need that ability to recover what they need when they need it. And this is the flexibility to restore specific data or entire workloads en masse. And last but not least, and maybe most importantly, Organizations need to be able to understand what they are protecting and have a historical view to be able to provide additional security insights, which we'll talk about in the next couple of slides. And so these requirements are critical. So with all of that said, what is Rubrik's approach? How can Rubrik help? Well, to start, to keep your data readily available, Rubrik was built from the ground up following zero trust principles that assume breach. This includes leveraging an immutable file system, an air gap, and access controls to deliver a data vault that prevents your data from being located, modified, or even deleted from the very first backup. And because Rubrik has the historical time series of your data and captures the metadata, Rubrik is in a unique position to provide further insights such as data threat analytics and data security posture. And so together with this protection and insights, Rubrik is able to deliver complete cyber resilience from a single platform. And all of this protection is delivered through the automated SLAs that are inherited. So Rubrik automatically discovers and protects data by defining the backup frequency, retention, archival, and even replication, all from a single SLA policy. And these SLAs encompass the entire life cycle of your data, not only giving your teams their time back to work on other, differentiated work, but ultimately peace of mind, ensuring your data never goes unprotected wherever it lives. And as you know, with Rubrik Security Cloud, all of this broad protection is unified under a single platform. And so this provides customers with a unique view into all your data, helping drive compliance to meet your business objectives. But also, Rubrik was built for scale, and to help customers keep up with the ever-growing volumes, Rubrik leverages innovations like incremental forever backups. And so what that means is each platform, does this a little bit differently. But with Rubrik, whenever we take a backup, the particular system thinks we're taking a full backup or a level kind of 0 backup. But right under the covers, we're going to do some additional work to basically only capture the change data and move that across. And then, what we store historically is what you could call a synthetic full. As we take in incremental data, we merge it in the history, and we are basically able to store the backups that you need without all of that data every time. Ultimately, as a result, Rubrik is moving less data, storing less data, and because of our scale architecture, the larger the Rubrik cluster, the faster we can go. The last element of the Rubrik approach for enterprise data protection is recovery. And so this might perhaps be the most important piece, like we talked about. After all, the whole reason you back up data to begin with is so you can recover it when you need it. So to help you recover what you need when you need it, Rubrik provides a number of flexible recovery options that really put you in the driver's seat. Our recovery options offer really a spectrum of control, where on one end, you have the options that are completely automated. You select the point in time, select recover, and Rubrik will take care of the rest. While on the other end of the spectrum, you have the ability to tell Rubrik where you want to land your data, and you can manage the entire recovery yourself with your own tools. And so the goal is to enable you to exercise your expertise how you want and when you want. Rubrik also provides rapid access to data with recovery innovations like Live Mount. And so because Rubrik understands the context of what we're backing up, this allows us to understand the appropriate recovery mechanisms, as well as the blast radius of any attack, especially with regards to critical or sensitive data. Unlike traditional recovery, when you recover to the latest point in time, you need to be able to ensure that all the malware is eliminated from the data before you recover. And so to do that, you have to be able to go back in time to understand where the malware originated and thus eliminate it before restoring to protection. And of course, because Rubrik is API-led, you have the ability to automate recovery with your own scripts. And like we talked about architecture, it's not enough to just protect your data. You have to be able to understand what you're protecting, have an historical view of how it's changed. And so Rubrik, with our time series data and metadata, we're able to provide data threat analytics and data security posture natively within the platform. We're able to understand things like, what data do we have? Where is it located? How has it changed? Who's accessing it? What are they doing with it? And all of these insights are only possible because of the purpose-built architecture that was made from the ground up. Okay, so to start wrapping up, I know we covered a lot of ground, but just to recap, as you probably have already experienced yourself, protecting data is no easy feat. And with today's current landscape, it's only getting harder. But the good news is that with Rubrik Secure Vault and Rubrik Data Protection, through our zero trust design that assumes breach, that global policy-driven automation, an incremental approach to backups, unified management, and flexible recovery and live mount, you can keep all your data safe and readily available so you can always recover only what you need when you need it. And so Rubrik has a lot of experience with data protection. Rubrik as a company was founded in 2014. And in that short amount of time, Rubrik has delivered purpose-built protection for everything from Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle databases to Entra ID and Amazon S3. And we see the trust and belief in these solutions with the momentum. I'm proud to share that Rubrik is protecting data for more than 6,000 customers and has a net promoter score of greater than 84 and a customer satisfaction score of 98%. And we deliver that protection all from a single data security platform. And that's going to be customers big and small across industries, across the globe. They all trust Rubrik to protect their data. It's customers like Carhartt, Home Depot, PepsiCo, and even St. Luke's. Okay, on to the resources. So as we start to close things out, I wanted to share just a couple of resources that I thought you would find interesting or helpful. The first is our report, The State of Data Security, Measuring Your Data's Risk. I mentioned this report throughout the presentation, a ton of valuable information that I think you'll find interesting. But next, for those of you who want to get a little bit deeper and maybe even get hands-on, I would highly recommend taking a look at Rubrik Explore, which is a collection of self-guided product tours. No need to talk to anybody from the Rubrik team if you don't like. It's all self-paced. And there's a tour there on Rubrik Security Cloud, and that tour will guide you through the Rubrik Security Cloud UI, things like the navigation and data protection dashboards. It will also take you through the global SLA domains, that we spoke about, actually giving you a chance to create your own SLAs and even apply them. And it also takes you through some of those zero trust capabilities we spoke about, including role-based access control and multi-factor authentication. So really a great way to get started with Rubrik and to learn more. But in addition to these resources, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to Rubrik if you wanted to learn more. We would be more than happy to get in touch and share how customers are protecting large environments with Rubrik. Our teams can even provide a personalized walkthrough if that's something that would be interesting. And just to go a little bit deeper, there are a bunch of other tours there as well, roughly 25 in total, covering everything from DB2 and Microsoft SQL to M365 and some SaaS protection. So definitely check it out. There's something there for everyone. And lastly, before we go, just wanted to mention that Rubrik just concluded our annual user conference, Rubrik Forward. And so if you missed it, still an opportunity to watch many of the sessions, including the keynote from our CEO that included many other product leaders from across the company touching on what we have planned for the future. And with that, just a big thank you to all of you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you, Justin. As always, an amazing presentation. And with that, I'm going to throw up our next poll. Let us know what additional information you would like now about the Rubrik solution. Now, it looks like we had a lot of questions today. You folks are super on your game. We cannot get to those today. So Justin could not stick around, unfortunately, but he and the Rubrik team will be responding to all the questions that came in. So have no fear. If you asked a question, you will hear from them. I also want to remind everyone about the handouts. We do have a link from Rubrik for a special report on backup solutions. Be sure to check that out if you'd like more detail. Remember, the handout section is right next to that questions tab, as Jess said at the beginning. So thanks to everybody who's responding to the poll. We appreciate that feedback. I'm going to leave it up here for another moment while I give away the first prize of the EcoCast today. That is a $300 Amazon gift card, and the winner of that is David Sulak from Texas. That is where my son is right now in law school. Congratulations to you, David. We will be in touch ASAP about claiming your prize. And with that, folks, it is time for our next and last presentation in today's EcoCast. This session comes from Akamai, and presenting for Akamai is Joseph Glover, the Director of Field Compute Technology. Joseph, thank you so much for being here today. It's great to see you.
And hi to everyone. I guess I can take it up from here.
You can. You have got the mic, and the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Thank you. So, hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Glover. I am the Cloud Field CTO for the Americas at Akamai. And listen, I think we've had some great content. We've got some great insight from Melissa Palmer on the new generation of backup solution and from the Rubik's team on Secure Vault. Now, I would like to shift the focus to something that underpins both, which is distributed cloud and how it evolves or it's evolving today to meet the demands of modern backup solution. So what I'll be doing today is I'll spend some time discussing how distributed cloud architecture complements this backup technology, driving innovation and resiliency in a world where data is more distributed than ever before. I'll also spend some time highlighting some customer challenges that comes with this model and also some best practices that you can use to navigate and optimize backup processes in a distributed cloud environment. But before that, though, first thing, for some of you that may not be familiar with who Akamai is, I would like to do a quick overview of who we are, how Akamai Connected Cloud plays into a pivotal role in the modern, that's what I meant, cloud landscape. So, a quick question, which it's rhetorical here, is: has anyone ever booked a vacation rental via Airbnb? Or perhaps you've watched the 2024 Olympics? If so, well, chances are you have benefited from Akamai services. See, Akamai has been a key player in the internet ecosystem for over 25 years. We actually began in the late 1990s with our content delivery network, CDN, designed specifically to tackle the World Wide Web problem by making the internet faster and more reliable. Now, we didn't stop there. We recognize that robust security is essential for dependable content delivery, so we expanded into security services to keep online experience safe and, for the most part, uninterrupted. Now, fast forward a few years ago, we actually took another major leap into edge and cloud computing. Yes, Akamai is in the cloud computing business with the acquisition of Linode. And our aim here was to address some customer concerns around cloud computing, especially when it comes to cost, efficiency, and performance. Now, today, when you put all these three core strengths together, content delivery, security with zero trust, and cloud computing, we've created this Akamai Connected Cloud, which is our massively distributed edge-to-cloud platform designed for cloud computing, security, and content delivery. And all of this is backed by our world's largest and most pervasive edge network, which then help us with this unique architecture to deliver a infrastructure and services faster in a more scalable way for our customer, especially in a distributed cloud environment. So I've mentioned distributed cloud a few times. I think it's best we go into what that is. And to do that, it will be great to step back and talk about what centralized cloud architecture is today. See, today with centralized architecture, resources like computing, power, storage are centralized in a few large data centers, typically far away from users and devices that are generating data. Now, while this model can be cost efficient at scale, it also introduced things like latency, bandwidth limitation, and regulatory constraints due to the physical distance between where the data is being generated and where the data is being processed. Distributed cloud, on the other hand, actually is an extension, or if you want to look at it, better word to use is an evolution of centralized cloud computing, and it takes a different approach which is by decentralizing these resources, distributing them across multiple locations, specifically closer to where data is being created or consumed. This proximity then allows for low latency. So data processes happen closer to where users are, and it reduces delay, improve resiliency, better regulatory compliance. So distributed cloud support data sovereignty by ensuring that data stays within specific geographic region as customized by the customer. So we actually give that power to the customer, and better scalability by scaling resources and expanding them across multiple locations based on demand. Now, if you're thinking like me, you're saying, how does this come into backup solution? Well, in the context of backup solution, distributed cloud enables faster, more reliable, and more efficient backup, especially when you're doing real-time and edge processing. And I'll go into a little bit more details on this. But here's another question. Why is this shift happening? Well, I mean, you can look across. It's largely due to the changing global consumer behavior that we're seeing today. Consumers today expect to have an instant access to their data, to their application and services, whether it's streaming videos or conducting online transactions or even using smart devices. So this behavior has created a massively surge in data generation from all corners of the world, which is why you see that for businesses to meet this expectation from consumers, having or relying solely on a centralized architecture, it's not going to meet the demands of thousands of users all across the world. Not saying that centralized is going away. I'm just saying there's now an evolution into distributed cloud, and it plays a pivotal role by bringing cloud computing and resources closer to where the data is being produced, and in this case, to customers. Now, the way we like to look at this is the past decade of centralized computing now must evolve to meet the next generation or decade of challenges based on the growing consumer demand. We've seen it in the past, and it's only going to keep growing. So at peak, like I said, centralized did work, but now the shift is going into distributed computing. Now, with this shift, backup strategies also needs to evolve to match the always-on, real-time demand of today's users. And that's why distributed cloud enables faster, more localized backup and disaster recovery, ensuring that businesses can now meet the expectation of consumers no matter where you are around the world. All right. I've said a lot of things. Hopefully, I've established how distributed clouds meets real-time performance and why, because you're bringing the compute resources closer to the customers. All right. Practically, okay, we also need to consider that this model also brings about some specific challenges. Yes, we do see a lot of advantage, with some of them I mentioned, low latency, but also we do see some challenges that I would like us to talk about and address. That way you can be better informed and you can be better set up to make sure you are delivering as it relates to your backup processes. For example, localized data storage. Specifically, the challenge here I'm talking about is ensuring that you have consistent data synchronization across multiple edge locations can be complex and challenging. So when you have all these distributed nodes across the globe and you're trying to make sure that, hey, your data is consistent across the board, it's taxing. One way to mitigate that is to implement automated synchronization technology across your organization or resources that continuously monitors the data integrity and consistency across all nodes. Now, what you can do then is utilize a centralized management system. So don't forget, centralized architecture still exists. Utilize a centralized management system to actually oversee and control the synchronization process effectively. Another challenge that comes up with this is global redundancy. So specifically maintaining data integrity and availability across the globe when you are distributed across multiple nodes. Now, the way you can mitigate this now is think about data deduplication techniques. So write once and then write the deltas on top of that. Now, what that does is reduce the volume of replication or replicated data, minimize storage costs without compromising the availability. Now, additionally, what you should also think about when it comes to mitigating global redundancy is implementing failover mechanisms that automatically switch to backup system in different regions in case of local failure. Speaking of different regions, that also brings another challenge of data sovereignty compliance. And specifically, how do you then adhere to diverse regulatory requirements for data storage and processing in different countries? In fact, in EU, you know that for GDPR, different countries within the in EU, it have different policies. So one way that you can mitigate that also is to deploy regional data center if you have that capacity. One thing we find is that customers are getting to their limit of the four walls of a data center, which is why they are using the cloud. So you can also use the cloud and edge services that are available, edge infrastructure that are available to allow you and to specify where you want your data to reside. But the first step of this is understanding what your provider has. Do they have infrastructure in hard to reach location? For example, Bogota, Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta. Do they have, or Osaka, do they have infrastructure in those regions where you can meet the legislative or legislation and compliance? In other words, let me put it this way: regulatory compliance in a specific region. So pay attention to that, partner with the right cloud provider, make sure they have the resources and give you control to have your data resides where it meets the compliant policies and reflects that based on regulations. Now, finally, security. When it comes to security, I think it's job zero. So protecting your data is a no-brainer from breaches and unauthorized access in a distributed environment should be job zero. How you mitigate that is end-to-end encryption on your data at rest and your data in transit. Employ or implement zero trust security model that requires verification from anyone trying to access your network, regardless of their location. This can significantly help enhance security across your distributed system, especially when you're doing you're trying to back up your system and bring it back online. All right, so there are challenges, there are ways to mitigate it, so keep that in mind. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about real quickly was best practices that I'm seeing in the field that can actually help you be well distributed and architected in a distributed cloud environment. Now, keep in mind, some of these actually overlaps with the challenges I already talked about, so I will skip through a few of them. For example, strong encryption practice. We've just talked about encryption, and in the only layer I'll put on here is make sure you also establish a comprehensive key management protocol to help you manage and safeguard your encryption keys when you encrypt your data at rest and as well in transit, and as well also use strong encryption algorithm. So I'll leave that there. The part I would like to focus on here is another buzzword that I think Melissa mentioned this as it relates to AI ML. How can AI ML help when it comes to backup processes? Well, before we talk about AI ML, let's make sure we level set on automation, because automation can drastically enhance your backup reliability and efficiency, because now you've reduced the amount of human touch, and the more reduction you have in human touch, the less errors, and the less error, the more uptime you have in your system. So automate. It's a no-brainer. Scheduling, backup, and recovery. So keep that in mind. AI ML can lay on top of that, because you can start using algorithms or ML algorithm to actually identify pattern in your data to help you with predictive maintenance. So the AI algorithm can look at your systems and see your data flows and begin to say, okay, based on the patterns I'm seeing in this data, the system should be ready for maintenance, and then you can take proactive measure to maintain your system. Same thing with optimizing of resources. Machine learning can also help you with backup scheduling based on your data usage pattern, system loads, and those can go ahead and schedule those backups. That way, you can quickly be well optimized when it comes to your resources, and you don't have to congest your network, for example. Another way that AI tools can help is identify anomalies and errors in your backup and initiate corrective actions without even any human intervention, which goes back to that automation I talked about. And then lastly is intelligent data management. Okay. It's always a good idea to classify your data, which is part of the best practices here, and classify the tiers that you're using for your backups. So simply put, hot data, critical data, high touch data, those can go to hot storage, and then data that are infrequent touch, those can go to cold storage. Now, AI can help you identify that as well and help you with that classification if you are using the right algorithms, and if you're actually making sure that you're paying attention with what your provider gives. And these algorithms are not supposed to be anything complicated like Gen AIs that we have today. I mean, you can use algorithms, general purpose algorithms like support vector machine or random forest, or you can even think about algorithms like regression algorithms, which are more generic, and those can be helpful with backup processes and regression algorithms as well. So it doesn't have to be anything complicated. But yes, if some provider have figured out how to, fine tune large language models or foundational models, and you can use Gen AI, I would definitely advise you to explore it and make sure it works for your use case, and then implement it as you see fit. So two last thing I wanted to talk about is as it relates to adopting a holistic approach to your data lifestyle management. And this is a big deal because, again, it goes back to the things I've talked about. Keep your hot data in hot storage, but at the same time, too, not every data needs to be retained needs to have the same retention policy. That's where I'm going with this. So some data can be kept for a very long time, and some data needs to be archived for a shorter duration. And then you can have a deletion process to manage the volume of data. And this can really help reduce your cost, which is essential, but also to help enhance your system efficiency as it relates to performance. And then lastly, let's see, is there anything else? I think that was the last thing I want to talk about. And then multi-tier storage. Okay, so think about your hot storage being SSD, and then your archival storage can be magnetic. And then so decide where you want to put your hot data and your cold data. That way, again, your ROI can be high and you are not spending so much on backup. Instead, that revenue or that cost allocation can go into something like R&D or your actual business differentiators. That way, you can continue, serving your customers. All right. With that said, that's really what I had in place. Feel free to visit Akamai if you want to learn more about our distributed cloud. And it's fair to say, look, we are a infrastructure provider company. We support customers, SaaS, high-tech media, and we support backup vendors that actually provide these tools for you to help with your backup. So again, we are underpinning the resources to help you, and we are putting data in hard to reach location. With that said, I will wrap it up and see if there are any questions for me.
Thank you, Joseph. What a fantastic presentation. We definitely have questions for you. In the meantime, I'm going to put up our poll question. Please let us know what additional information you would like to see from Akamai. Keep doing that while we go over the questions. I also want to remind everyone about the handouts. We've got a PDF white paper from Akamai. It's all about how to make best use of the distributed cloud model, which of course is what Joseph was talking about during the presentation today. So check that out if you'd like more detail while we go over your questions now. So Joseph, we do have some really good ones, and here's an interesting one to start off with. This comes from Jeffrey, who wants to know, can I extend my edge to the Akamai cloud? And I would add to that, how difficult is it to extend the edge? So kind of a two-tier question here.
Okay. Thanks, Jeffrey, for your question. Can you extend your edge to Akamai Cloud? The answer is yes, you can extend your edge to the Akamai Cloud. I'm sure there is the B and C part of the question, which is how do I extend my edge to the enterprise, to the Akamai Cloud? And to answer that question, obviously, I will need to know, or we need to know a little bit more about what is in that statement, edge, because that can mean different things for different people. But if I were to use a generic example to explain the answer to the how you do that, let's assume that your edge is a remote location where you are actually processing data to actually meet a specific customer need. I'm just making that generic. So you have a compute infrastructure that it needs to process X amount of data to meet a user's need at a specific location. Well, first thing is connectivity. It's the big deal. How do you connect from that edge to the Akamai location? Yes, that can be made possible over the internet. Definitely, we can do that. Encrypted, yes, we can do that. And then when you start thinking about private connection, yes, we can actually discuss what is the implication of that depending on the location that you have to extend your edge to Akamai's edge. So another way, generically speaking, is people think of edge as, oh, maybe the CDN is my edge. That is the edge that I am using to deliver data to my customer. Can I extend that with Akamai Cloud? Oh, obviously, you can extend that with Akamai Cloud. First of all, we also are a CDN. That's how we started our business. But now we are also putting compute in some of those strategic CDN locations. That way, not only can we just serve content, but we can also process content besides it being just JavaScript, but we can process content depending on whatever language that you write it on. As long as you can stand up a VM or you can stand up a container, you can process it. Lightweight, heavyweight, we can process it at the edge. I hope that answers your question.
It definitely will get you started. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Joseph. Okay, next question we have got comes from Amir, and he's got a really interesting one. And his question is, how do you deal with false positives in regard to the AI ML algorithm when it comes to backups? So is there a way to further automate this process so AI and ML can learn from backup anomalies and correct them on the next backup set?
That is a very good question, Amir. I would not claim to be a backup expert. In fact, I will not claim that we are in the backup business. But I can tell you this. The way algorithms work is they learn from patterns. So you identify false positive. You can take those new data that you have acquired. You can go back to your model and retrain your model with new data and show which is false, which is what is it called? Truth. So based on, we call that target, and I think you understand that. So you can show them the new data, show the algorithms the new data, and those algorithms will then create a model, which really at its basics is a mathematical function. And then that becomes your new model that you use to now, when your next backup comes on, and it can be based on that. That way it can learn from the mistakes of the last time and identify, hey, this is false and this is truth, or and then better classify and help your anomaly identification. That's the way I'll put it. So that's the way I've seen it done in the industry. Some people call it reinforcement learning. Okay, yeah, you can call it that when you go into deep learning, but really is retraining your models and making them identify new data. That way they can perform better the next time.
Great. Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone to keep voting in the poll and to check out the handout for Akamai. We have one more question before we let you go today, Joseph. And this one comes from Lionel, who wants to know, how vendor agnostic is Akamai?
Oh, that's a good one. So our platform today, the Akamai Connected Cloud, it's a open platform, and we are adhering to the CNCF principles as relates to both cloud native and edge native. And you can go look at those. They are on TNCF. In fact, you can look at the 12 factors as it relates to the cloud native principles. And so we definitely push for that vendor agnostic when it comes to cloud computing. We definitely push for cloud portability. And really, our philosophy here is use the right cloud at the right time or process, or what's they called business needs to solve your problem. We definitely promote multi-cloud. Of course, with that, portability comes with using containers, and now things are going even into web assemblies that can help you run on multiple cloud. One of our research that we conducted with Forrester, the great cloud research, came up that, I think in the 70% or even 80 in between there of customers are using 5 or more cloud. So multi-cloud is a thing. So when you look at our compute, let me end this with this. When you look at our compute offering, what you find out is we provide the computing primitive to help customers build cloud and edge native application. Those are storage, compute, networking, and then throw in security and a few managed services, which will be Kubernetes as a service, which we call our Linode Kubernetes engine. That's what we provide. Then we tell you, hey, you bring what works for you from a database or from a observability platform that works for you, whether that be open source Nagios or you want to use a vendor. That's fine. Bring it to our platform to use it, and we provide that to you in a very cost-effective and transparent way. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that's a great answer. In other words, there's no vendor lock-in with Akamai, which is something every admin wants to avoid. So, so Joseph, it has been so much fun to have you on today. Thanks for updating us on what Akamai is doing. Obviously, one of the leading, most innovative companies in the industry. It has been an absolute pleasure to learn from you what they're doing and to have you on today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, folks, we are getting set to close out this event for today. But I did first, I'll tell you what, wanted to tell you that if you enjoyed the event today, we can do one of these for you. We could do a EcoCast, MegaCast, we can do a special event for you just for your company. So if that is something you would like to hear about, let us know. Send us an email at connect@actualtechmedia.com and let us know what we can do for you. And I do now need to give away the final 2 Amazon gift cards of the EcoCast today. As I mentioned at the beginning, we were giving out 3 $300 cards, and we have 2 more to go, and the winners have been selected. As Jess said at the beginning, you do have to be present for the entire event to be eligible to win. And the winners of the last 2 are Sean Campbell from Pennsylvania and Reggie Fisher from Sweet Home, Alabama. Congratulations to all of our winners today, and stay tuned as we will be reaching out to you to claim your prizes. So this has been such a fun event for me, and wanted to let you know we have another one coming up that promises to be great next week. This is coming on Tuesday, September 24th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And this is about data center versus cloud versus colo, why to consider, how to choose, and how to move. So this is an infrastructure focused event here, talking about the pros and cons of each of these different models and how to find the best one for you. So if this looks intriguing to you, look for it in our events area. You can find that again in the handouts, and sign up right after this event ends, which is right about now, folks. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank our presenters today for putting together these awesome presentations, and I want to thank them for their Q&A insights. I want to thank also Rubrik and Akamai for making this event possible. Hey, we wouldn't be doing this right now without them. So a big shout out to both of our sponsors for today. And last but never ever least, I want to thank you attendees for being here. I love being on with you. Thanks for your interest and your great questions, and for spending part of your day with us. It's always the best part of my day to be here with you, and I can't wait to see you in the next event. So folks, that's a wrap for today. Have a great rest of your day.